I should have known something was wrong when Rick started being nice to me. My name is Scarlett, and I'm 32 years old. I've been married to Rick for 4 years, and in all that time, he's never once complimented my coffee. But there he was last Tuesday morning, sipping from his usual chipped mug and telling me it was perfect, babe, just perfect. The house we live in, well, the house I inherited from my parents, has this kitchen window that faces east. Mom always said the morning light made everything look hopeful. That Tuesday, watching Rick smile at me over his coffee, I felt anything but hopeful. "So," he said, setting down the mug with exaggerated care, "I've been thinking about Carl." Of course he had. Rick's older brother Carl was like a splinter that never quite worked its way out. Every conversation eventually circled back to Carl's latest disaster, Carl's brilliant new idea, or Carl's temporary need for help. "What about him?" I asked, though I already knew where this was heading. "He's having a rough patch. Lost his apartment last week." I kept my back to him, scrubbing the same plate for the 3rd time. "That's unfortunate." "Come on, Scarlett. He's family. Family." Rick wielded that word like a weapon whenever he needed something. I turned around, dish towel in hand. "What exactly are you asking me, Rick?" "Just for a few weeks. Maybe a month. He could stay in the guest room upstairs." The guest room. The one that still had my father's old desk and my mother's sewing machine. The room where I went when I needed to feel close to them. "Rick, please, babe. He's got nowhere else to go. Mom's place is too small, and you know how she gets when Carl's around too long." I knew exactly how Paula got. Rick's mother had perfected the art of loving her sons while simultaneously enabling their worst impulses. Carl was 39 years old and had never held a job for more than 6 months, but according to Paula, he was just finding his path. "How long is temporarily?" I asked. Rick's smile widened. "You're amazing, you know that? Carl's going to be so grateful." He hadn't answered my question, but he was already pulling out his phone to text his brother. I watched him type with the enthusiasm of someone who'd just solved world hunger. Within 2 hours, Carl was standing in my living room with 3 garbage bags and a guitar case. "Scarlett!" He swept me into a hug that smelled like cigarettes and cheap cologne. "You're a lifesaver, a real angel." "It's temporary," I said, stepping back. Of course, just until I get back on my feet. I've got some irons in the fire, you know, big things coming." Carl always had big things coming. In the 4 years I'd known him, those big things had included a food truck that never materialized, a cryptocurrency investment that vanished overnight, and a multi-level marketing scheme involving essential oils. "I'll show you to your room," I said. As we climbed the stairs, Carl whistled appreciatively. "This is some house, Scarlett. Your parents really knew how to pick them." "They built it," I corrected. "Dad designed it himself." "Smart man. This place has got to be worth what, 400? 5? Something cold settled in my stomach. "I wouldn't know. Course not. Who thinks about that stuff when it's home, right?" But the way he said it, the way his eyes lingered on the crown molding and hardwood floors, made me think Carl thought about it plenty. That night, I lay in bed, listening to Carl's television through the thin walls. Rick was already asleep, snoring softly beside me. I stared at the ceiling and tried to remember the last time this house had felt truly peaceful. The next few days blurred together. Carl made himself at home with alarming speed. He rearranged the living room furniture for better feng shui. He used up all the hot water every morning. He left dirty dishes in the sink and crumbs on the counter. But it was the mail that really bothered me. I'd always handled our mail. It was a small thing, but it was mine, sorting through bills and catalogues and the occasional letter from my sister, Savannah. Suddenly, Carl was there every afternoon when the mailman came, chatting with him like they were old friends. "Just being helpful," Carl said when I mentioned it. "Figured I'd save you the trip." On Friday, I came home from work to find Carl sitting at my kitchen table with a stack of envelopes. "Anything important?" I asked. "Just the usual junk." He slid the pile toward me. "Oh, except this one. Looks official." The envelope was thick, cream-colored, with both my name and Rick's printed in formal black letters. The return address made my blood run cold. First National Bank. Mortgage Department. My hands shook as I tore it open, Carl watching with curious eyes. The words swam on the page. Mortgage application. Approved. Property address matching my house. My signature at the bottom of documents I'd never seen before. My heart hammered against my ribs as the room tilted sideways. "Scarlett?" Carl's voice sounded far away. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I had. The ghost of my parents' legacy, slipping through my fingers like smoke. I stared at the signature on the mortgage papers. It looked like mine, almost. The S in Scarlett was too loopy, and I never dotted my I's with circles. But it was close enough to fool a bank. "Carl, where's Rick?" He's at the hardware store, I think." "Why? What's wrong?" I folded the papers and walked to the living room, my legs feeling like jelly. Carl followed, hovering behind me like a guilty dog. "This is about the mortgage, isn't it?" he said quietly. I spun around. "You knew? Look, Scarlett, Rick was going to tell you—" "Tell me what? That he forged my signature? That he mortgaged my parents' house without my knowledge?" Carl held up his hands. "It's not like that. It's an investment. We're going to make money." "We?" The front door slammed. Rick's voice carried from the kitchen. "Honey, I'm home. Carl, you want a beer?" "In here," I called, my voice deadly calm. Rick appeared in the doorway, still holding a bag from the hardware store. His smile faded when he saw my face. "What's wrong?" I held up the papers. "Care to explain these?" Rick's eyes flicked to Carl, then back to me. "Oh, those came today? Don't you dare act casual about this. You forged my signature, Rick. You mortgaged my house." "Our house," he corrected. "We're married. My name is on the deed. My parents left this house to me." Rick set down the bag and crossed his arms. "And I'm your husband. What's yours is mine, right? That's how marriage works. Not when you commit fraud." "Fraud?" Rick laughed, but it sounded forced. "Come on, Scarlett. You're being dramatic. It's a business opportunity. Carl's got connections." "Carl's got connections to what? Another failed venture? Another get-rich-quick scheme?" "Hey now," Carl interjected. "This is different. I've got investors lined up. Real money people. We're talking about flipping properties, renovation loans, with my house as collateral." "It's temporary," Rick said. 6 months, maybe less. We'll pay it back with interest." I felt like I was drowning. "How much?" Rick and Carl exchanged glances. "How much did you borrow against my house?" 200,000. Carl mumbled. The room spun. 200? I couldn't finish the sentence. "It's not that bad," Rick said quickly. "The house is worth way more than that, and we've already put the money to work. Carl's got 3 properties lined up." "Had," Carl corrected quietly. "The Riverside deal fell through yesterday." Rick's face went white. "What do you mean fell through?" "The seller backed out, and the downtown property needs more work than we thought. The inspection turned up foundation issues." "So where's the money?" I asked. Neither of them answered. "Where is the money?" "Some of it's tied up in permits and deposits," Carl said. "But don't worry, I've got other deals." "How much is left?" "About 50,000, Carl whispered. I sat down hard on the couch. $150,000. Gone. In less than 2 weeks. The front door opened again, and I heard the click of high heels on hardwood. "Rick, Carl, I brought dinner." Paula's voice rang out cheerfully. Perfect, just perfect. Rick's mother appeared in the doorway carrying bags from the Chinese restaurant downtown. She took one look at our faces and frowned. "What's going on here? You all look like someone died." "Mom," Rick started, but I cut him off. "Your son forged my signature and mortgaged my house." Paula set down the food and looked at Rick with disappointment. "Oh, honey, you were supposed to talk to her first." "You knew?" I stood up so fast I felt dizzy. Well, of course I knew. Rick tells me everything. And honestly, Scarlett, I think you're overreacting. Overreacting? This house is too big for just the two of you. It makes sense to put it to work. Carl needs help getting back on his feet, and family helps family. By committing fraud? Paula waved her hand dismissively. Such a harsh word. Rick is your husband. He has every right to make financial decisions. Not without my consent. Marriage is about compromise, dear. You can't just think about yourself all the time. I stared at her, then at Rick, then at Carl. They were all looking at me like I was the unreasonable one, like I was the problem. "Get out," I said quietly. "Scarlett," Rick started. "Get out of my house. All of you." "Now hold on," Paula said. "There's no need for dramatics. We can work this out like adults. Adults don't forge signatures. Adults don't steal from their wives." "I didn't steal anything," Rick snapped. "I'm trying to build something here, for us, for our future. By gambling with my inheritance. Your parents are dead, Scarlett. They don't need the house anymore." The words hit me like a physical blow. I heard Paula gasp, saw Carl wince. "Rick," Paula said sharply, "that was uncalled for." But it was too late. Something inside me crystallized, hard and cold. "You're right," I said. "They are dead. Which means this house is all I have left of them, and you just bet it on your brother's latest fantasy." I walked to the front door and opened it wide. I said, "Get out." They left, but not quietly. Paula muttered about ungrateful wives, while Rick slammed cabinet doors, gathering Carl's things. Carl himself said nothing, just stuffed his belongings back into garbage bags with the efficiency of someone who'd done this many times before. After they drove away, I sat in my kitchen and called the one person I trusted completely. "Zariah? It's Scarlett. I need help." "What's wrong? You sound terrible." "Rick mortgaged my house, forged my signature. The money's already gone." Silence. Then, "I'm coming over. Don't touch anything. Don't sign anything. Don't talk to anyone until I get there." Zariah arrived 30 minutes later with a briefcase and a grim expression. We'd been friends since high school, and she'd become a lawyer, specifically because she hated seeing people get screwed over. If anyone could help me, it was her. "Show me everything," she said. I spread the mortgage papers across my dining room table. Zariah examined them with a magnifying glass, taking photos with her phone. "This is definitely fraud," she said. "The signature's close, but not perfect. Did you ever sign anything that Rick could have traced?" "Maybe. We've signed a lot of documents together over the years." "We'll need to prove you didn't know about this. Do you have any witnesses? Anyone who can testify that you were unaware of the mortgage?" I thought about it. My sister, Savannah. I talked to her every week. She would have known if I was planning something this big. "Good. Anyone else?" "My co-workers, maybe. I never mentioned anything about refinancing or borrowing money." Zariah nodded, making notes. "What about the money? Where did it go exactly?" "Carl said something about property deals. One fell through. Another has foundation problems. There's about 50,000 left." "Out of 200,000? Zariah whistled. "That's impressive, even for a scam artist." Over the next few days, I became a detective in my own life. I went through every bank statement, every credit card bill, every receipt I could find. I printed emails, saved text messages, and started keeping a detailed log of every conversation. Rick tried calling, but I let it go to voicemail. Scarlett, come on. We need to talk about this like adults. Mom thinks you should see a counselor. You're being irrational. Delete. Babe, I know you're upset, but we can fix this. Carl's got another deal lined up, bigger than the last one. Delete. Fine, be stubborn, but you can't stay mad forever. We're married, remember? I remembered. That was the problem. On Thursday, Savannah drove down from Portland to check on me. You look terrible, she said, wrapping me in a hug. Thanks, that's exactly what I needed to hear. I'm serious. When's the last time you ate something that wasn't coffee? She dragged me to the grocery store and cooked dinner while I sat at the kitchen counter, watching her move around my mother's kitchen like she belonged there. Tell me about Carl, she said, chopping vegetables. What do you want to know? Everything. His history, his schemes, his relationship with Rick. I told her about the food truck, the cryptocurrency, the essential oils, about how Rick always bailed him out, always believed the next venture would be different. There's something else, Savannah said. Something I didn't want to tell you over the phone. My stomach dropped. What? I ran into Paula at the grocery store last month. She was talking to Mrs. Henderson from her church group. And? She said Rick needed to make that house work for the whole family. That you were being selfish, keeping such a big place to yourself. The knife I was holding to cut bread slipped, nearly taking off my finger. She said what? There's more. She said Carl had big plans and that Rick was finally going to step up and be a man about it. Step up and be a man about stealing from his wife? That's not how she put it, but yeah, essentially. I set down the knife carefully. How long have they been planning this? Based on what she said? Months, maybe longer. That night, after Savannah went to bed in the guest room, I sat in my father's old office and made a list. Every lie Rick had told me. Every time Carl had asked suspicious questions about the house. Every conversation that suddenly made sense in hindsight. The pattern was clear. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was a calculated plan to steal my inheritance. Friday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Perkins? This is Kelvin from First National Bank. I'm calling about your mortgage application. What about it? Well, there seems to be some confusion. Our records show the loan was approved and funded, but we haven't received your first payment. It was due yesterday. My blood turned to ice. How much is the payment? $1,800, plus a $50 late fee since it's past due. $1,800. Every month. For 30 years. I'll call you back, I managed. I hung up and immediately called Zariah. They want $1,800 a month, I said without preamble. Jesus. Scarlett, we need to move fast. If you default on this loan, I lose the house. You lose the house. I looked around my father's office, at the bookshelves he'd built by hand, at the window where my mother used to sit and read, at the family photos covering every surface. What do I need to do? First, we document everything. Every conversation, every lie, every piece of evidence we can find. Then we go to war. War? Fraud is a felony, Scarlett. Rick could go to prison for this. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Rick's smug smile when he called me dramatic. About Paula dismissing my pain. About Carl treating my home like his personal ATM. Yes, I said. I'm prepared. But even as I said it, I wondered if I really was. Zariah came over Saturday morning with a plan that made my head spin. We're going to set a trap, she said, spreading legal documents across my kitchen table. But first, we need more evidence. Right now, We have the forged signature and their admissions to you. We need them to incriminate themselves on record. How? You're going to call Rick. Tell him you're considering selling the house to pay off the mortgage. See how he reacts. My hands shook as I dialed his number. Zariah held up her phone, recording. Scarlett? Thank God. I've been worried sick. We need to talk about the mortgage, Rick. Of course. I'm glad you're being reasonable about this. I'm thinking about selling the house. Silence. Then, what do you mean, selling? The payments are $1,800 a month. I can't afford that. If I sell, I can pay off the loan and have some money left over. You can't sell the house. Why not? It's my house. Because we need it for the business. Carl's got new investors coming in next week. Big money people from Seattle. I looked at Zariah, who nodded encouragingly. What business, Rick? The properties that fell through? Those were just setbacks. Carl's got 3 new deals lined up. Better ones. We just need a little more time. Time for what? To lose more money? It's not lost. It's invested. God, Scarlett, why can't you see the big picture? The big picture is that you stole from me. I didn't steal anything. I'm your husband. What's yours is mine. Zariah gave me a thumbs up. Perfect. So you admit you took out the mortgage without my permission? I don't need your permission to make smart financial decisions for our family. Our family? Or your family? What's that supposed to mean? It means Carl isn't my responsibility, Rick. Neither is your mother. This is my parents' house, and you had no right. Your parents are dead, Rick shouted. They don't care what happens to the house. I hung up and stared at the phone. Perfect, Zariah said. He just admitted to taking out the mortgage without your consent and showed clear intent to continue using the property for unauthorized purposes. Now what? Now we wait, and we gather more evidence. I didn't have to wait long. Sunday afternoon, Rick's niece Destiny showed up at my door. She was 18, fresh out of high school, with the kind of wide-eyed optimism that made me want to protect her from her own family. Aunt Scarlett, can I come in? I'd always liked Destiny. She was Carl's daughter, but somehow she'd escaped the family tendency toward selfishness and schemes. Of course, honey. What's wrong? She sat on my couch, twisting her hands nervously. It's about Uncle Rick and my dad. What about them? They've been planning something, for months. Dad keeps talking about how this house is wasted on just you and Uncle Rick, how it could be maximized for the family. My blood chilled. Maximized how? They want to renovate it, turn it into apartments or something. Dad says old houses like this are gold mines if you know how to work them. Apartments? Dad's been researching zoning laws and rental prices. He thinks he can get the city to approve a conversion. Turn this place into 4 or 5 units. I felt sick. Did Rick know about this? Oh yeah, they've been planning it together. Dad says Uncle Rick finally grew a backbone and decided to take control of his assets. When did they start planning this? Right after Christmas. Dad lost his job at the warehouse, and Grandma Paula kept saying how unfair it was that you had this big house all to yourself while family members were struggling. 6 months. They'd been planning to steal my house for 6 months. Destiny, why are you telling me this? She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. Because it's wrong. This was your parents' house. They built it with their own hands. Dad and Uncle Rick have no right to take it from you. Does your father know you're here? God, no. He'd kill me. But I couldn't just sit there and watch them destroy everything. After Destiny left, I called Zariah immediately. They want to turn it into apartments, I said without preamble. What? I told her everything Destiny had shared. Zariah was quiet for a long moment. This changes everything, she said finally. This isn't just fraud. This is conspiracy to commit fraud, with intent to permanently deprive you of your property. What does that mean? It means they're looking at serious prison time. All of them. Monday morning, I was getting ready for work when I found an envelope slipped under my front door. No postmark, no return address, just my name written in block letters. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a message cut from magazine letters, like something from a bad movie. Drop it, or risk destroying the family. Some things are more important than money. I stared at the note, my hands trembling. Someone was watching me. Someone knew what I was planning. I called Zariah immediately. "Bring it to my office," she said. "Don't touch it any more than you have to. We'll dust it for fingerprints." "You think this is serious?" "Scarlett, you're threatening to send people to prison. Of course it's serious." As I drove to Zariah's office, I kept checking my rearview mirror. Every car looked suspicious. Every face seemed threatening. But underneath the fear was something else. Something harder and colder. They wanted to play games? Fine, I'd show them what games looked like. Zariah examined the threatening note under a magnifying glass while I paced her office like a caged animal. The paper's from a standard magazine, probably People or Time. The glue is still tacky, so this was made recently. She looked up at me. "Any idea who might have sent it?" "Could be any of them. Rick, Carl, Paula, hell, maybe all three. We need to be smart about this. They're getting desperate, which makes them dangerous, but it also makes them sloppy." She pulled out a small recording device, no bigger than a thumb drive. "What's that?" "Insurance. I want you to wear this whenever you're around them. If they threaten you again, we'll have it on tape. You want me to go back there? I want you to control the narrative. Right now, they think they're winning. Let's change that." That evening, I called Rick. "I've been thinking about what you said," I told him. "About the house, the business opportunity. Really..." His voice perked up immediately. "I knew you'd come around. I want to hear more about Carl's plans. Can we meet tomorrow, all of us?" "Of course. Mom will be so relieved. She's been worried sick about this whole misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding. Right. How about dinner at the house? I'll cook." "That sounds perfect, babe." I knew my wife was still in there somewhere. The recording device felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. Tuesday evening, they arrived together, Rick, Carl, and Paula. Like some twisted family reunion. Paula brought flowers, as if that would somehow erase the fraud. "Scarlett, dear, you look so much better," she said, kissing my cheek. "I'm so glad you've decided to be reasonable about this." "Let's sit down," I said. "I want to understand exactly what you're all planning." We gathered in the living room, the same room where I'd thrown them out a week ago. Carl was practically vibrating with excitement. "Okay, so here's the vision," he started, gesturing wildly. "This house is sitting on a gold mine of potential. We're talking about a complete renovation." "What kind of renovation?" I asked. "Multi-unit conversion. 4 apartments, maybe 5 if we get creative with the basement. The rental income alone would be..." "Wait," I interrupted. "You want to turn my parents' house into apartments?" "Not just apartments," Rick jumped in. "High-end units, professional tenants. We're talking about 2, maybe 3,000 per unit per month." "That's 12,000 a month in rental income," Carl added. "After expenses, we're looking at maybe 8 or 9,000 in profit." "We?" I asked quietly. "Well, the family," Paula said. "This would benefit everyone. Carl could manage the property, Rick could handle the finances, and you'd have a steady income stream." "What about the mortgage payments?" "Covered by the rental income," Rick said confidently. "Plus, we'd have enough left over to pay back the initial investment within 2 years." I nodded slowly. "And my parents' house? What happens to that?" "Scarlett," Paula said gently. Your parents are gone. This house is just wood and brick now. What matters is making it work for the living. But it's my inheritance, my connection to them. You'd still own it, Carl said. We'd just be maximizing its potential. Actually, Rick said, and something in his tone made my blood freeze. We've been thinking it might make more sense to put the property in a family trust. That way, everyone has a stake in its success. A family trust? With Mom as the trustee, Rick continued, she's got the most experience managing family assets. I stared at him. You want me to sign over my house to your mother? Not sign over, Paula corrected. Transfer into a trust for everyone's benefit. It's really the most sensible solution. And if I refuse? The room went quiet. Rick and Carl exchanged glances. Well, Rick said slowly, the mortgage payments are due whether you cooperate or not. If you can't make them, the bank forecloses, Carl finished, and then nobody wins. But if you work with us, Paula added, everyone comes out ahead. It's really a no-brainer. I stood up abruptly. I need some air. I walked to the kitchen, my heart pounding. The recording device was getting everything. Their plan to steal my house, their threats, their complete disregard for my feelings or rights. When I came back, they were huddled together, whispering. Everything okay? Rick asked. Fine. I just needed a moment to process all this. It's a lot to take in, Paula said sympathetically. But once you see the big picture... Oh, I see it, I said. I see it very clearly. Carl leaned forward eagerly. So you're in? You'll sign the trust papers? I need some time to think about it. How much time? Rick asked, and there was an edge to his voice now. A few days, maybe a week. Scarlett, Paula said firmly, the longer we wait, the more money we lose. Carl's investors won't wait forever. What investors? I asked. Carl shifted uncomfortably. Well, they're more like potential investors, but they're very interested. You mean they don't exist yet? They will once we have the property secured, Rick said quickly. That's how these things work. I looked at the three of them, my husband, his brother, and their mother, and saw them clearly for the first time. Not family. Predators. I'll let you know my decision soon, I said. After they left, I sat in my car in the driveway and called Zariah. Did you get it all? Every word. Scarlett, this is conspiracy to commit fraud, extortion, and attempted theft. We have them dead to rights. What's our next move? Tomorrow morning, we take this to the bank's fraud department and the district attorney's office. By tomorrow night, they'll all be under investigation. I looked up at my house, at the windows glowing warm and yellow in the darkness. My parents had built this place with love and hope and dreams of the future. Do it, I said. But as I hung up the phone, I noticed a car parked across the street. The engine was running, and I could see the silhouette of someone in the driver's seat. Watching, waiting. I drove around the block twice, but the car followed me both times. They weren't just threatening me anymore. They were hunting me. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I drove to Savannah's apartment and slept on her couch, checking the windows every hour until dawn. You're being followed? Savannah asked over coffee the next morning. Someone was watching the house. They followed me for 6 blocks before I lost them. This is getting scary, Scarlett. Maybe you should call the police. Zariah says we need to stick to the plan. Today, we file everything with the bank and the DA's office. But when I called Zariah at 9 a.m., her voice was tight with worry. We have a problem. I just got a call from Kelvin at the bank. Someone contacted them yesterday claiming to represent you. My stomach dropped. What kind of someone? A man identifying himself as your financial advisor. He told them you were having second thoughts about the fraud complaint and wanted to work things out privately. I don't have a financial advisor. I know, but it bought them time. The bank's putting the investigation on hold for 48 hours while they verify your intentions. Can they do that? Unfortunately, yes. Fraud cases are tricky when they involve married couples. Banks don't want to get caught in the middle of domestic disputes. I felt the walls closing in. What do we do now? We go to the DA directly. But Scarlett, you need to be prepared. Once we file these charges, there's no going back. Rick will be arrested. Probably Carl too. Good. Are you sure? Really sure? Because after today, your marriage is over. Your relationship with Rick's family is over. Everything changes. I thought about the car following me, about Paula's dismissive smile, about Rick's casual cruelty when he mentioned my dead parents. I'm sure. Then pack a bag. You're not going back to that house until this is resolved. I spent the morning at the district attorney's office with Zariah, laying out the entire case. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Detective Martinez, listened to our recordings and examined the evidence. This is solid, she said finally. Forgery, fraud, conspiracy, extortion. We can make arrests by tomorrow. What about the threats? The person following me? We'll add intimidation of a witness to the charges. Do you have somewhere safe to stay? My sister's place. Good. Don't go anywhere alone, and call us immediately if anyone contacts you. That afternoon, I drove to the house to pack some clothes. Savannah insisted on coming with me. I don't like this, she said, as we pulled into the driveway. What if they're waiting for you? It's broad daylight. What are they going to do? Famous last words. We were upstairs in my bedroom when I heard the front door slam. Scarlett! Rick's voice boomed through the house. I know you're here. Your car's in the driveway. Savannah grabbed my arm. Should we call the police? Not yet. Let me handle this. I walked downstairs to find Rick pacing the living room like a caged animal. Carl sat on the couch looking nervous. Where have you been? Rick demanded. I've been calling you all day. I've been busy. Busy doing what? Talking to lawyers? Spreading lies about your own family? I haven't lied about anything. Carl stood up. Scarlett, we need to talk. There's been a misunderstanding. What kind of misunderstanding? The bank called, Rick said. They said you filed a fraud complaint against me, your own husband. I did. Rick's face turned red. How could you do this to me? To us? You forged my signature, Rick. You stole my house. I didn't steal anything. I'm trying to build something here. By lying and cheating and threatening me? Nobody threatened you, Carl said quickly. I pulled out my phone and played the recording from last night. Their voices filled the room, clear as day, discussing the family trust and what would happen if I didn't cooperate. Rick's face went white. You recorded us? I recorded you admitting to fraud and extortion. That's not... We weren't, Carl stammered. You weren't what? Planning to steal my house? Turn it into apartments? Force me to sign it over to Paula? It's not stealing if it's for the family, Rick shouted. The front door opened again, and Paula walked in carrying grocery bags. Oh, good. You're all here. I brought ingredients for dinner. I thought we could... She stopped when she saw our faces. What's wrong? She recorded us, Mom, Rick said. She's been recording our private conversations. Paula set down the groceries slowly. Scarlett, that's a very serious violation of trust. Trust? I laughed, but it came out harsh and bitter. You want to talk about trust? We're family, Paula said. Family doesn't spy on each other. Family doesn't forge signatures either. Oh, for heaven's sake! Paula waved her hand dismissively. You're making such a big deal out of nothing. Rick was trying to help. Help who? Himself? Carl? You? Help the family. Help you whether you're smart enough to see it or not. By stealing my inheritance? Your inheritance? Paula's voice turned sharp. You didn't earn this house, Scarlett. You didn't work for it. It was handed to you. By my parents, who built it with their own hands. And now they're gone, and you're wasting it, sitting here alone in this big house while family members struggle. That's not my responsibility. It is when you're part of this family. I'm not part of your family, I said quietly. I never was. The room went dead silent. Rick stepped forward, his face twisted with rage. What did you say? You heard me. I'm not a Perkins. I never will be. And after tomorrow, I won't be married to one either. What happens tomorrow? Carl asked. I looked at each of them, Rick with his entitled fury, Carl with his desperate schemes, Paula with her manipulative righteousness. Tomorrow, the police arrest you for fraud. Rick lunged toward me, but Savannah stepped between us. Don't, she said firmly. Don't make this worse than it already is. Worse? Rick laughed wildly. She's destroying everything. Our marriage, our family, our future. You destroyed it the moment you forged my signature. I walked toward the door, Savannah beside me. This isn't over, Rick called after me. You can't just walk away from your marriage? I turned back one last time. Watch me. As we drove away, I saw Paula standing in the doorway, her face a mask of cold fury. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You'll regret this. But looking at my house in the rearview mirror, my parents' house, my sanctuary, my inheritance, I knew I wouldn't regret anything. Tomorrow, justice would finally come knocking. I was drinking coffee at Savannah's kitchen table when my phone rang at 7:30 a.m. It's Detective Martinez. We're moving in 1 hour. Are you somewhere safe? Yes. My sister's apartment. Good. Stay there until I call you back. This could get messy. An hour later, I was pacing Savannah's living room when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Look outside. I pulled back the curtain. 3 police cars were parked in front of my house. Officers were walking up the front steps. Oh my God, Savannah whispered, looking over my shoulder. It's really happening. My phone rang. Rick's number. Don't answer it, Savannah said. But I did anyway. I had to hear this. Scarlett! Rick's voice was panicked, desperate. There are cops at the house. What did you do? I told you yesterday. I filed fraud charges. You can't be serious. Call them off. It's too late for that. Please, I'm begging you. This will ruin everything. You already ruined everything. I hung up and immediately called Detective Martinez. We have Rick in custody, she said. He didn't resist, but he's demanding to call his lawyer. We're looking for Carl now. He's not at the house? No sign of him. Any idea where he might go? I thought about it. Try Paula's house, or maybe the casino downtown. He likes to gamble when he's stressed. We'll check both. I'll call you when we have him. 2 hours later, Detective Martinez called back. We found Carl at the Greyhound station with a one-way ticket to Phoenix. He had $8,000 in cash and a fake ID. He was running? Looks like it. That's going to make the charges even worse. Flight risk, intent to evade prosecution. What about Paula? She's not charged with anything yet, but we're investigating her role in the conspiracy. The recordings you made suggest she was involved in planning this. That afternoon, I drove to the house to assess the damage. Yellow police tape stretched across the front porch, and several neighbors stood in their yards, whispering and pointing. Mrs. Henderson from next door hurried over as I got out of my car. Scarlett, dear, what on earth happened? There were police cars everywhere this morning. Rick was arrested for fraud. Her eyes widened. Fraud? Against who? Against me. He forged my signature to mortgage the house. Oh my goodness. And that brother of his? Arrested, too. Mrs. Henderson shook her head. I never trusted that Carl. Always seemed shifty to me. But Rick? I'm shocked. So was I. Inside the house, everything looked the same, but felt different. The police had searched through papers and taken boxes of evidence, but they'd been careful not to damage anything. I walked through the rooms, touching my parents' furniture, their photographs, their books. This was still my sanctuary. Rick and his family had tried to steal it, but they'd failed. My phone rang. Paula's number. You destroyed my family, she said, without preamble. Your family destroyed itself. Rick is a good man, a good husband, and you threw him away like garbage. Rick is a criminal, Paula. He committed fraud. He was trying to help his brother. Family helps family. Not by breaking the law. You self-righteous little... She caught herself. You have no idea what you've done. Rick could go to prison. That's what happens when you commit felonies. And Carl? He's just a boy trying to make his way in the world. Carl is 39 years old and a career criminal. How dare you? How dare I what? Tell the truth? Hold people accountable for their actions? You could have worked with us. We could have found a solution that helped everyone. The solution was simple, Paula. Don't steal from me. That house is too big for one person anyway. It's wasteful. It's mine. Your parents are dead, Scarlett. They don't care what happens to it. The same words Rick had used. The same cruel dismissal of my grief and my rights. You're wrong, I said quietly. They do care, and they'd be proud of me for fighting back. Proud? You destroyed a marriage, broke up a family, sent 2 men to jail. What's to be proud of? I stood up for myself. I refused to be a victim. You are a victim of your own selfishness. Goodbye, Paula. I hung up and blocked her number. That evening, Destiny called. Aunt Scarlett? I heard about Dad and Uncle Rick. I'm sorry, honey. I know this is hard for you. Actually, I wanted to thank you. Thank me? For standing up to them, for not letting them get away with it. Her voice was shaky, but determined. I'm 18 now. I can make my own choices, and I choose not to be like them. What do you mean? I'm moving out. I got accepted to community college, and I have a part-time job. I'm going to make my own way. Destiny, you don't have to... Yes, I do. I can't be part of a family that thinks stealing is okay. That thinks lying and cheating are acceptable if it's for family. What does your grandmother say about that? She says I'm ungrateful and foolish, that I'm choosing strangers over blood. And what do you say? I say blood doesn't give you the right to hurt people. After we hung up, I sat in my parents' living room and cried. Not for Rick or Carl or Paula, but for Destiny. For the courage it took to walk away from everything you'd ever known because it was the right thing to do. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Local brothers arrested in mortgage fraud scheme. The story was brief but accurate. Rick and Carl Perkins arrested for forging documents and defrauding a family member of $200,000. Both held without bail. I turned off my phone and sat in the quiet house, surrounded by my parents' love and memories. Justice had been served, but somehow it felt more like a funeral than a victory. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks after Rick's arrest. I signed them at my kitchen table while drinking coffee from my mother's favorite mug. Zariah called an hour later. Rick's lawyer wants to make a deal. He'll plead guilty to the fraud charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. What kind of reduced sentence? 2 years instead of 5, plus full restitution of the money. What money? Carl spent most of it. That's Rick's problem now. The court will garnish his wages for the next 20 years if necessary. And Carl? Carl's fighting the charges, claims Rick forced him into it, that he was just an innocent victim. I laughed bitterly. Innocent victim. Right. His trial starts next month. Rick will probably testify against him as part of his plea deal. Honor among thieves, apparently, only went so far. That afternoon, I was in my father's workshop, trying to fix a loose cabinet door, when someone knocked. Through the window, I saw Destiny standing on my porch with a suitcase. "I hope it's okay that I came by," she said when I opened the door. "I didn't know where else to go." "What happened?" "Grandma Paula kicked me out. Said I was a traitor to the family for not supporting Dad and Uncle Rick." "Where will you go?" "I have a dorm room at the community college, but I can't move in for another week. I was hoping—" She looked down at her feet. "I was hoping maybe I could stay here. Just for a few days. I'll sleep on the couch, I won't be any trouble." I looked at this 18-year-old girl who'd chosen integrity over family loyalty, who'd walked away from everything she knew because it was right. "The guest room upstairs is yours for as long as you need it." Her face lit up. "Really? You'd do that for me? You stood up for me when your own family wouldn't. It's the least I can do." That evening, we sat in the kitchen eating takeout Chinese food. Destiny told me about her college plans, her part-time job at a bookstore, her dreams of becoming a teacher. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Do you ever regret it? Turning them in?" I thought about it. "I regret that it came to this. I regret that Rick chose greed over our marriage. I regret that your father dragged you into his mess. But not the arrests. No, not the arrests. Good. Because what they did was wrong, and someone needed to stop them." The next morning, Detective Martinez called with an update. "Carl's lawyer wants to make a deal too. Apparently he's realized that Rick's testimony is going to bury him." "What kind of deal?" 3 years, plus he has to pay back his share of the stolen money." "How much is his share?" "About 120,000. Turns out Rick was telling the truth about one thing. Carl did pocket most of the money for himself." "What happens to the mortgage?" "The banks agreed to cancel it as part of the restitution. The forged documents make it invalid anyway." "So I keep the house?" "You keep the house." I hung up and walked through the rooms, touching the walls my father had built, the floors my mother had chosen. This place had been under attack for months, but it had survived. We had survived. Savannah came by that weekend to help me clean out Rick's belongings. We packed his clothes, his books, his collection of vintage beer bottles into boxes. "How do you feel?" she asked, as we loaded the boxes into her car for donation. Empty, relieved, angry, sad, all at the same time. "That's normal. You've been through hell." "The weird part is, I keep expecting him to walk through the door, to apologize and explain and make it all make sense somehow." "Would you take him back if he did?" I looked around the living room, at the family photos that no longer included him, at the space that felt peaceful for the first time in months. "No, I wouldn't." "Good. You deserve better than someone who sees you as an obstacle to overcome." Destiny graduated from high school the following week. I went to the ceremony and cheered when they called her name. Paula was there too, sitting on the opposite side of the auditorium, but she didn't acknowledge me. After the ceremony, Destiny found me in the parking lot. "Thank you for coming. It means everything to me. I'm proud of you. Your parents would be too. My real parents, maybe, but not the people who raised me. You're going to be fine, Destiny. Better than fine. You're going to be extraordinary." She hugged me tight. "I want to be like you when I grow up, strong enough to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard." "You already are." That night, I sat on my front porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. The house was quiet, peaceful mine. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it and blocked the number. It was over. Rick was in prison. Carl was in prison. The house was safe. The mortgage was cancelled. Justice had been served. But as I locked the front door and turned off the lights, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. The woman looking back at me was harder than the one who'd lived here 6 months ago. More suspicious, more guarded. I'd won the war, but I'd lost something too. The ability to trust completely. The belief that family meant safety. The innocence that let me sleep soundly at night. I walked upstairs to my bedroom, past the guest room where Destiny was studying for her college placement exams. At least something good had come from this mess. At least one person had chosen a different path. I opened my jewelry box and pulled out my wedding ring, the diamond catching the lamplight one last time. Tomorrow, I'd sell it. Use the money for something my parents would have approved of. Maybe a scholarship fund for kids like Destiny, who needed a second chance. Tonight, I'd sleep in my own bed, in my own house, surrounded by my own choices. And if that made me more like the Perkins family than I wanted to admit, calculating, strategic, willing to destroy relationships to protect what was mine, well, maybe that was the price of survival. Maybe that was what justice really looked like. Cold, final, and absolutely necessary.